Imagine this. It's Friday night, and you and your girlfriend are picking a movie. You're dying for an action movie. She wants a rom-com. So, how do most people handle this? Some go with the logic method. You try to convince her with facts. Action movies are more exciting, they have better reviews, and I've been waiting all week for this. Problem is, emotions beat logic every time. She hears all your facts, but she's still craving comfort and relaxation. Others go for the compromise method, splitting the difference. Okay, we'll watch half your rom-com and half my action movie. Sure, it works sometimes, but both of you leave feeling a little unsatisfied. Then there's the pushy method, just insisting, arguing, or trying to dominate the decision. No, we're watching my movie, period. This usually backfires, and suddenly a simple movie night feels like a battle. But Chris Voss doesn't believe in logic, compromise, or pushiness. Because in real conversations, emotions drive decisions far more than facts. So who is Chris Voss, and why should you care? For 24 years, he was the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator. When he retired, he realized that the psychological principles he used to talk down terrorists are the exact same ones that work in our everyday lives. His book, Never Split the Difference, isn't your typical negotiation guide. It's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about understanding people, reading emotions, and steering conversations so that everyone feels like they're winning, even when you're the one guiding the outcome. And that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm breaking down 5 actionable lessons from the book that you can use right after watching. Lesson 1, just listen. So let's get into the first superpower. And this one is so simple, you're probably not going to believe how well it works. We all go into important conversations with this giant pile of arguments ready to go, right? It's like we're loading a machine gun with all our brilliant points. We're just waiting for the other person to stop talking so we can start firing. But Chris says that is the single biggest mistake we make. Your greatest weapon in any negotiation isn't your mouth, it's your ear. It's your ability to listen. But not just normal listening, we're talking about aggressive listening. And he has a ridiculously simple trick for this. It's called the mirror. Here's exactly how it works. When someone says something important to you, you just repeat the last 1, 2, or 3 words they just said, back to them, as a question. So let's play this out. Imagine you're talking to a potential client and they say, your proposal looks good, but it's just a little outside our budget. Now your brain is probably screaming, no, let me explain the value. Let me justify the price, right? But instead, you just take a calm breath and you say, outside your budget, and then you shut up. You lean in, you look interested, and you let the silence hang there. This does something magical to the human brain. The other person feels this irresistible urge to fill that silence. They feel like you didn't quite understand, so they have to explain it better. So they might say, well, yeah, we only allocated X for this project. Or, it's just that with the current economy, we're being more cautious. Did you see what just happened? You didn't argue, you didn't push, you just listened, and they voluntarily gave you more information. They told you exactly what the real problem is. This works because it makes the other person feel heard. And when people feel heard, their defenses go down, and they start to trust you. They start telling you what they really want. It's like you've become a human lie detector by just quietly listening to the truth they're already trying to tell you. Lesson 2, tactical empathy. Most of us treat emotions in a negotiation like a fire we have to put out. Someone gets angry, we panic. Someone gets upset, we get uncomfortable and try to change the subject. Chris Voss does the exact opposite. He doesn't put out the emotional fire, he controls it. Tactical empathy is not about being nice. It's not about sympathy. It's about understanding exactly what the other person is feeling, and this is the crucial part, naming it out loud. Think of a negative emotion as a ticking bomb. You can either run from it, which just makes it scarier, or you can try to argue with it, which makes it blow up in your face. Or you can calmly walk over and cut the right wire. Labeling is you cutting the wire. Here's how you do it. You use a simple starter phrase. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, and then you take your best guess at the negative emotion they're probably feeling. Speaking of, it looks like you're enjoying these negotiation tips, so hit the like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. So let's say you're talking to a client who's angry about pricing. They're ranting, this is too expensive, we can't afford this right now. The average salesperson starts discounting or explaining costs, but the smart negotiator pauses and says, it seems like this cost has really thrown off your budget. Boom, they feel heard. Their brain literally calms down. There's research behind this. When someone labels an emotion, the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, cools off. That's why Voss says, label the emotion, don't deny it. You're not agreeing with them, you're not apologizing. You're simply saying, I see what you feel. And that small acknowledgement makes them trust you. This cuts straight through the surface level and goes right to the real emotional core of the problem. It transforms the conversation from you versus me into us versus the problem. And this works because when you label a person's emotion, you validate it. You make it okay for them to feel that way. And when that happens, the emotion loses its power over them, and they can suddenly start thinking clearly again. Lesson 3. Calibrated questions. All right, now we're getting into one of my absolute favorite parts of the book. So imagine you're in a negotiation. You've pitched your offer, laid out your reasoning, and the other person says, "That's not going to work for us." Now, most people either panic or start defending themselves. They explain, justify, maybe even beg a little. But Chris says, don't push. Ask a question that makes them think for you. Calibrated questions are open-ended questions that start with how or what. They shift all the mental work onto the other person. Instead of arguing, you invite them to solve the problem with you. Picture this. You're negotiating with a supplier who says, "Sorry, we can't drop the price." Instead of saying, "Come on, that's too high," you lean in and ask, "How am I supposed to do that and still keep this project profitable?" That one question flips the energy completely. You're not attacking, you're curious, and now they have to answer. Maybe they say, "Well, maybe if we reduce the packaging, we could bring it down a bit." Now they just open the door for compromise without you pushing at all. Here's a quick mental trick to remember. Ask to understand, not to trap. If you sound clever or sarcastic, it backfires. But if you sound genuinely curious, calm voice, slow pacing, people open up. The key is in your tone. And in psychology, this taps into a concept called the IKEA effect. People value what they help build. When someone contributes to solving a problem, they feel ownership over it. So when your investor or partner helps craft the solution, they're way more likely to agree to it, because it's partly their idea now. Lesson 4. The 7-38-55 rule. Alright, so here's something that completely messes with your head when you first hear it. Only 7% of communication comes from the actual words we say. 7%. The rest? 38% comes from your tone of voice and 55% from your body language. Basically, your voice and body are doing all the heavy lifting, while your words just tag along. Think about that for a second. You could say the exact same sentence in 2 completely different tones, and it can mean the total opposite. Try saying, "I'm fine," like you just won the lottery, then say it like someone just keyed your car. Same words, but one sounds cheerful, the other sounds like emotional damage. Chris calls this the art of tone control, and it's something every great negotiator masters. He even teaches what he calls the late-night FM DJ voice. You know that slow, calm, confident tone? The one that sounds like smooth jazz and quiet control? That's how you lower someone's emotional temperature instantly. I once watched a startup founder do this during a tense investor meeting. The investor kept interrupting, throwing questions like darts. Instead of talking faster or matching the pressure, the founder slowed down, dropped his tone a notch, spoke softer. You could feel the energy shift. Within a minute, the investor stopped interrupting. The founder had silently taken control, not by arguing, but by how he spoke. It's wild, but people don't respond to logic first. They respond to energy. If your tone says, "I'm anxious," they hear uncertainty. If your tone says, "I've got this," they feel it, and they trust you more. And your body, it's saying just as much. If you're crossing your arms, tapping your foot, avoiding eye contact, your body's basically screaming, "I'm not comfortable." But when you lean in slightly, keep your shoulders open, and nod as they talk, you're signaling, "I hear you. I respect you. I'm not here to fight you." Here's something cool you can try tonight. Record yourself explaining your business idea or your offer. Then mute the audio and just watch your body language. You'll instantly see what vibes you're giving off. Then play it again with audio. Notice your tone. You'll see why people might hesitate, even if your words are perfect. Voss used to say, "The voice is the most powerful tool in a negotiator's kit," because when you control your tone, you control the emotional direction of the entire conversation. Lesson 5. The 2 magic phrases. Alright, we need to talk about 2 phrases that will completely change how you communicate, whether you're dealing with investors, customers, or even your own family. First, let's reframe a word everyone fears: no. We hear no and we think we failed. When someone says no, they're usually just saying, "I need to feel safe," or "I need more control." Remember the movie night dilemma? Instead of asking your girlfriend, "Can we please watch the action movie?" which sets up a direct yes-no confrontation, try this. Are you completely against watching something with some excitement tonight? Hear how different that feels? The easiest, safest answer for her is no. I'm not completely against it. And just like that, you've turned a potential argument into a conversation. You've given her an easy no that actually moves you forward rather than shutting you down. Now for the really powerful phrase, the one that signals you've truly connected. It's not yes. People say yes all the time without really meaning it. The phrase that actually matters is, that's right. When someone says, that's right, it means you've summarized their situation so perfectly that they feel completely understood. This is when real breakthroughs happen. Let's say you're planning a vacation with your partner who's being difficult about the budget. You listen to all their concerns, then say, let me make sure I get this. You're worried that if we spend too much on this trip, we'll stress about money the whole time, and you want to make sure we can still save for the house project. That's the real concern, right? If they say, that's right, you've just turned an argument into a partnership. Same with a business partner who's resisting your idea. First listen, then reflect. So you're excited about the potential, but you're nervous about the financial risk and want to make sure we have a solid backup plan. Is that accurate? If they say that's right, it means you're finally on the same page. So stop fearing no. See it as an invitation to understand better. And stop chasing yes. Aim for that powerful that's right that means you've truly connected. Hope this video was helpful. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.